Hello, everybody. Welcome to Level Up Academy podcast. Are you guys ready? Hope so. All right. Wow. Are you guys ready for the next?
Are you a curious student, eager to learn new skills and make your mark in the world? Or are you a professional seeking to advance your career and unlock your full potential? You need to be equipped with effective soft skills like communication, problem solving, teamwork, and more. The Level Up Academy by Doc Leland bridges the gap between education and employment through transferable skills training. Get the soft skills you need to be more effective at work.
Oh, sorry. I was still dancing. I was like, I was loving that music. What's going on, people? Anyhow, good morning. And Sister Susanna, you are my first today. Welcome. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I see you, Lonnie. You're on YouTube. Awesome. And Sia, sister, what's up? Hi, Taiwu. I think this is your first time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And double buck as always, but of course, thank you so much for your support for sure. And I cannot wait for that global summit as well. I got to get my butt going, right? Hello. So let's go ahead and start with, especially we have new people. I'm going to share my screen and you can see my entire screen and what it looks like. And it's like double up on everything. But this is what I want to share with you. Is what is Level Up Academy and what is the podcast? So I have two things. There's a live stream that I do, which is what's happening right now. And anybody who is going to be on my show basically gets into my YouTube channel, Facebook, and also LinkedIn. And so my YouTube channel, I have a good announcement today, and I cannot wait to tell you. But I opened my YouTube last year, but I didn't really do anything with it until about March or April this year. And my husband, actually, the running joke in our house, it's like, you are doing something in YouTube and you're probably one of those projects you're just going to drop, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm going to prove to you that this will be sustainable. And so I had 36 subscribers in about April of this year, March, April of this year. And then now 4 or 5 months later, I have more than that. So I will show you how. But as far as the live stream, this is going to YouTube, the MP3 or the audio of this live stream, if you're in my guest or one of my guests here, make sure your audio is good so that I don't have to do too much editing, because if I feel frustrated, it's not going to go to my other distribution channels, which is in about 6 continents. More likely it's going to be more than 73 nations and countries, but currently in the last 2 months, that's where I was at, is 73 nations and countries where your voice can be heard. And 25 distribution channels, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer Notes, Google Play. You can listen to your audio on the radio as well with me. So that is what Level Up Academy is all about, is elevating my community. The second one is your video, not your video, your audio also is on my website. And you're like, big deal, everybody has a website. Well, this website is attached to LA Weekly, shout out Dave W, Deezer, a lot of magazines basically that talks about my website. So if your name and your audio is going to be extrapolated, not only goes to the radio, it goes to the website that people are looking. And right now it's looking like 10,000 to 20,000 views a month on my website. So that's good for you in terms of your search engine optimization. So this is my YouTube channel. And I actually, at the end, I'll show you how many subscribers I have. I am so excited to tell you today. But you get from education, what I usually do is, as far as adding value to my community, is I'll show you either a shortcut of something you can do, or a growth mindset that I went through that you can use, or some type of theory that can be extrapolated into real world experiences that most people, if not myself or other experts within the community, that can help you. And so then this is what I'm talking about for LA Weekly. I'm on LA Weekly as a top 10 podcast to listen to in 2023. Shout out Dave W Magazine. This is babyboomer.org. I know I'm not a baby boomer. I get it. I get all the laughs that I get DMs for it, but I'm considered in there as a contributor and an expert as well. And then, of course, for FeedSpot, it's called like the Billboard of education podcasts or whatnot. I'm top 29 out of 100. I'm not top 10, but I'm definitely on the top 30 at least. These are my 25 distribution channels. I wanted to also tell you, as far as the book, if you have been thinking about, oh my gosh, I want to write a book, I just don't know where to start, I have someone for you today that can help you, okay? And also someone in our audience who's really good producer of a book. And we just went through that experience this weekend. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But this is my first book. There's a lot of technical in there. It's my dissertation, guys. It's for HR people. So a lot of calculations, a lot of theories out there. But I am living that theory and testing that theory every day for the last decade. And I might be writing another book in conjunction with the first book to show you what I have been researching for the last 10 years. And then, of course, my second book is academic publishing. Again, I'm in academics. So if you haven't noticed already, I'm a teacher in higher ed. So that's why this one is in 6 different languages, but it is in academic publishing. So it is written in APA. And then this third book that I did in July with 30 fabulous, I should say 29 fabulous authors, hit number one international bestselling author. But what I really want you to focus on is the graphics. If you're thinking of having a project, having a book cover, having whatever that you need in terms of getting yourself marketed out there, I have someone for you who's near and dear to my heart, my sister Nicole. And I'll show you her profile in a minute. This is Lonnie Ray, and we are working on the book called Rattled Awake Volume 1. So you know there's going to be another volume coming in. So if you miss the opportunity to work with fabulous people like Steve Kidd, who's going to be today's podcast person that we have for guest, and Lonnie Ray, you have another opportunity coming up. So don't pass that out. I pass it up. I actually was loving the process, but also felt pressure because it was in a short amount of time, but it was so exciting to show you. And I'll share a little bit of that in a minute. I can't forget my sponsors, Tassie. If you type up Level Up 23 when you go to TassieBrands.com, you will get 30% off or 30% discount. So if you snore, you have a problem sleeping, you have migraines, which I do, it's debilitating for me where I would have to get disability from school at one point. That's how bad my migraine is. But this actually helped me. I got the one at the bottom and I got the blue one. I'm still waiting for my pink Chanel, but it's gonna come up. But these are the colors that Janice, our inventor, beautiful sister, has. And then, of course, this is the other ways that you can use it when you're reading pool, even in the airport, you can use it as well. Okay. That is Level Up 23. You'll get you a discount. My sister Sandra, also, if you're thinking of going to Mexico, this is in Mazatlan. If you scan this QR code and you're like, hey, I want to go to Airbnb and stay in your place, CJ sent me, she will actually, if you say the word CJ sent me, and then, or you could say Level Up, she'll give you a discount for her Airbnb. So this is my sister, beautiful sister, Nick, and she's the one who's basically behind like graphics for 50 inspirational that we have. Also the book covers on some of your favorite people that you follow on LinkedIn. She creates those. She does content writing. She does a lot. Okay. I can't even go on the list. Just DM Nick and said, CJ sent me. Okay. And she also has an audio room that we want you to come join us at 7 a.m. right? PST on Sunday. And then my sister Christine, oh, she's so cute. She has like kindergartners in her classroom right now. School started, guys. So sister Christine has a journal with Claudia. She's gonna have a book coming up with Christine and Kristen, I should say. And she will also be in our global summit along with my sister Nick. And you do not want to miss what they're gonna give away to you. And then, of course, I can't forget my very own sister, Susanna Dawn. If you need someone to talk to, good listener, better than your therapist, by the way, for sure, from my own experience. Okay. And she is a speaker. She's also an author. She has like lots of books coming up this year. But if you need to ask her for, hey, can you help me with storytelling? Hey, can you help me with, how do we grow from this mindset? She's also going to have a vision boarding class. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but DM her anyway, right? I use CRM and also has a very strong call to action. You know me, I love research. This one, sleekbio.com/Lua. It'll give you discounts on Dub. Level Up 10 gives you 10% discount on your subscription, whether it's annual or monthly. Lonnie Ray, I can't talk enough because she's so amazing. And I cannot wait for you guys to meet her in terms of our book. And I'm going to read the book, like not the book, but like a paragraph or a couple paragraphs from my chapter. My title of this chapter called Beneath the Perfect Score, The Silent Crisis of Student Suicides in Asian Cultures. In the pursuit of academic excellence, the world has often looked to Asian culture as paragons of dedication and discipline. However, beneath the surface of this reverence lies a growing concern, an alarming increase in suicide rates among Asian students. This tragic trend raises profound questions about the immense cultural pressure placed upon young shoulders striving to meet the demanding standards of being an A student. At an early stage, in the early chapters of my life, abandonment became the haunting melody that echoed through the corridors of my existence. At the tender age of 2, I was cast adrift into a world of uncertainty as my parents made the heart wrenching decision to leave me behind. Their departure, the first and most vivid memory of my childhood, marked the inception of a lifelong journey filled with unexpected twists and heart-rending crescendos. Growing up, I found myself dancing to a unique tune, one that was shaped by the cultural backdrop of my Asian heritage. In this symphony of my existence, the pursuit of academic excellence was not merely an aspiration. It was an unwavering expectation, a relentless demand. From the moment I entered the hallowed halls of education, I bore the weight of a familial dreams and aspirations. For being number one was not just an ambition, it was the bridge that connected me to the parents I yearned to see once more. I don't want to cry. I had so much emotions when I was writing this. So I'm going to move on. But this is what you get a little bit of my chapter. And let's just say I did stay, just for the sake of Lonnie and Steve, I did stay at less than 4,000 words. Okay. But I did push that envelope. Anyway, look at guys. I'm at 3,000 subscribers in 5 months. Okay, you too can do it. I'm in class right now teaching this on how to get your subscribers up and up and up and up in YouTube, because in the play or game of social media, Facebook has 2.96 billion users. YouTube has 2.35 billion users. So I'm working on my YouTube right there, okay? And I wanted to share this. This is my husband. You can see his hairy shirt. And that's our puppy. His name is Duke. And I said, love is blind, a man's best friend. That's instant connection. True love is pure. Honestly, guys, look at them both. They didn't even act. I just took this picture and they literally both closed their eyes. Aren't they so cute? Thank you for watching, guys. I'm gonna stop talking now, okay? Anyhow, are you guys ready? Are you ready? I don't know. I'm looking at Steve, see if he's ready. Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here. How are you doing?
Good. I'm sorry. I told you 9:15 and I'm like, oh, 3 minutes late. I hate that. I hate it when I'm not true to my words. But it is all about you today, and we're going to go right into it. So think back 20 years ago and find within your timeline some of the significant changes in your life that got you here where you are today.
20 years ago for me. Okay. I've got that. Are you want to tell us about 20 years ago? So 20 years ago, I may be squeaking a little bit here and going more to like 21, but 20 years ago, I was a single parent of 5 kids, ranging in ages at that point from, let's see, Alex would have been probably 7 at that point, and Emily would have been almost 17. And I met a lady, got married, and all the things you do to try to be able to give your children, 2 parents to have in their house. They're all grown now. They're all married now. And I'm no longer married to that lady. So significant changes over the past 20 years. How's that for encapsulating significance in 20 years in 20 seconds?
Good, but you still haven't told me, like, how did you actually created your business and helping others tell their story and like over and over and over, like 4,000, like bestseller, like what?
So in 2007, does anybody remember the movie Twilight? Remember how popular it was? Some people were huge Twilight fans. Other people were huge Twilight haters. My second youngest daughter and my wife were huge Twilight fans. And for my daughter's 18th birthday, they decided to go on a tour to all the filming sites for the first movie. We lived outside of Portland, Oregon, and all the filming for that first movie is mostly within about an hour drive of Portland, Oregon. And they just kind of blogged about it. I helped them begin to turn that blog into a book and eventually published it for them. Originally, actually, it was published, the ultimate version of self-published. It was printed off of a printer that I owned, and we were distributing them, one at a time to different locations and stuff. And then eventually it went out on CreateSpace, which was bought out by Amazon. The cool part about that is that book became the #1 best-selling movie-related travel guide on Amazon there for a while. And we really at that point discovered how powerful bestseller is. Now, I've had a marketing company since 1987. I've been working with folks forever in their marketing. But what I discovered is that if I didn't have you as a best-selling author, I couldn't maximize the potential and the reach for your book. Well, not even just your book, but everything you do in life, whether it be being a speaker, having a course, even something as simple as your opt-in is so much more so when you can say it's based off a best-selling book. I'll give you a great statistic. Over 50% of all movies that are made are based off of bestsellers. How's that for really the power of the bestseller? Even more so, over 80% of them that win Academy Awards are based off of best-selling books. It's a very powerful, mandatory, I would even call it foundational, there goes my words, foundational event in your marketing. And so from there on, every client that I worked with, if they didn't have a bestseller, I made sure that they did. Originally, we were taking signature talks from very high-end individuals and just making the books for them. I was encouraged by a coach to take this same system and make it available for everybody. Everybody wants to be a bestseller. How could that be possible? And, they were shocked by the fact that I said, oh yeah, we can make anybody a bestseller. And they probably didn't believe me at the time, And so we created the system, and we beta tested it at the end of 2015. And then in 2016, we helped 156 people become best-selling authors. That equates to more than 85,000 people that were reached by their books on day one. I only had tracking for day one at that point for those people's books. And since then, like I said, that was 2016. Since 2016, I've worked with thousands upon thousands of people. And the most cool part about that is it equates, again, on day one to several million people who their books have reached.
I talk a lot and I'm lost for words. I was like, my brain couldn't. Okay, first of all, I was attached to this notion and thought that in order for you to be a bestseller, you have to have like $70,000 to market your book, even if your book was crappy, right? Because you don't feel like, some people I've seen, my friends would say, I wrote a book, I really love it, and then my editor just butchered it. I don't even care at this point anymore, but I'm already in this much money. And I'm like, did you make money? And he's like, no, I'm losing money and I'm angry at the same time. And I was like, well, I'm never going to write a book. That's what I said. I'm like, I'm never going to write a book. So for a long time, I've never really thought about writing a book. And then my teacher says, why don't your thing is put it on as a dissertation anyway, put it on just Kindle, just put it out there, right? I said, okay. So I did that. And then my second book with academic publishing is with a summit. And the publisher, actually, the company is in Germany. And so we wanted to hit international because our degree was international business and it was academia. So I said, okay, we'll do that. And the third book is the first anthology that I did. And this is with you and Lonnie. It's the second one. And this one was more intense, like, whoa. And I can see why, because your system has been working forever for a lot of people. And so you have to trust the process. And I wanted to ask, what is the difference working with other publisher and other book creator or marketing gurus out there and working with you and Lonnie?
Well, I mean, I think the most important and most significant is your words, your voice matters. Most, whether it be traditional publishers or ghostwriters or things like that, they have a style, they have a method. And then, like you said, it comes back from the editor and it doesn't sound anything like you. It is really, for me, more important that the book sound like you, that a person reading it that knows you can be like, oh, I could totally hear you reading that to me. It's just exactly the way you would say it if you were on stage. For me, that's what a win is. And in most cases, when you go through that whole technical publishing side, that personality of the person often, if not almost always, gets lost. And that was one of the big things I wanted to solve.
Yeah, and I can't believe like you literally just sit there and contemplate and says bestseller. I'm like, who would claim that in the right mind, right? Like, who would claim that? That's so much pressure. Like, oh, I feel like if I said that, I was like, just so much pressure. Like, lights everywhere, camera. Okay, this is a punk, right? Like, someone's gonna come out and jump, and you literally just like, I can make you a bestseller, but you have to listen, to what I needed to do because you have a system, and I love the confidence. So I'm gonna segue a little bit. So Santa Dawn is in Oregon. Are you in Oregon?
I'm in the middle of nowhere in Kansas now, but yes,
Oh,
originally
okay.
we started in Oregon.
And I saw that you were living in Fallbrook, right?
Yes, I lived in Fallbrook, California for about 3, 4 years.
I am 30 minutes away or maybe 40 minutes away from Fallbrook. And I was like, "Oh, we were neighbors and you didn't say hi? What?" We should have done coffee by then, but I didn't know you. You didn't know me. But that is just crazy. And even Nick is saying, hey, it was, look at, yeah, super intense, but I learned so much. And this is her third anthology, I believe. And so we are giving you like feedback that, wow, what an amazing and a different type of way to create your book, right? And I wanted to also ask this question. Let's start with book writing. What inspired you to become an author, and what was your journey like when you decided to write your own book?
So, my first book is actually really funny. So, we all have, or most all of us have, that opt in on your website, give me your email address and I'll give you this whatever free thing. And so, I was writing my free giveaway. I was upgrading from what I had been doing, which was just a little list of things. 110 pages later, um, that quote unquote free little pamphlet. And so I decided, all right, since I've written a book, I actually brought in my oldest mentor, Dr. Donald Joy, and he wrote the foreword and helped me with the editing and helped me kind of bring my scattered thoughts into place. That book came out. It ended up being actually even quite a bit more content than that by the time we were done, because it was, to give you an idea, 110 pages was not well formatted. It ended up being almost 150 pages before it was formatted. And so I then ended up taking that book and breaking it actually into a 10-book series. But the first book, yeah, it was totally an accident. I mean, I've written music and poems and all kinds of things throughout my life, but the first book, like I said, I was just trying to do some little short thing and got on a roll and kept going until poof, big book.
Wow. And you're like, I'm just going to write a book. And then from there, you're like, I'm addicted.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's a bug that you can get really quickly. And this anthology will actually be my 22nd.
Wow. I see. I can't even, my head, like I said, my head was like, wow. Well, the way you and Lonnie were going, and like I wrote this chapter in 3 hours while I was waiting in the hospital and all this other stuff that's happening. And I'm like, I'm not going to write this book. Because on Saturday, I had no idea. Like, Lonnie's like, what do you, I don't know what I'm going to write. And then when I showed up on Sunday, I'm like, here's 4,000 words. Wait, less than 4,000 words. Because I didn't realize I had a lot to say. I just didn't know how to say it or where to say it. So I kind of channeled my emotions. And I told Lonnie I cried about this book a couple times because I was trying to write in my emotions looking back in the past and how I'm doing today, and then that in between. But I am having a hard time though, because I write academic way. I'm having a hard time injecting my story within the book, because Lonnie's like, it looks like a book report. I'm like, listen, why do you think I'm good at academics? I can give 10 degrees, I'm sure of it. But like telling my own story and that formatting was so difficult for me. So my next question is, for aspiring authors, what key advice or tips can you offer to help them start and complete their writing project successfully?
Couple of things. First of all, and we talked about this in class, it's about the concept of being vulnerable and valuable. It's in our vulnerability that we then begin to connect to others and can really truly help them. We need to understand somebody's waiting on you. There's somebody that's making a wrong choice because they haven't heard you say that thing. Maybe they've heard it said before, but they haven't heard you say it the way you say it. And so they don't need, or they don't know how to be able to get that help. So it's important that we really, first off, focus on who's the book for rather than what are we wanting to say ourselves. Secondarily to that, and some people, this is a little more difficult for them, but I really love the concept of doing your book via interview, especially if you're doing a whole book. A chapter is a little easier to do, just writing it out yourself, but bringing out the content for a whole book, having somebody go on, say, a Zoom call with you and just ask you questions and be curious and be like, tell me more about that, and of course, obviously, if they understand the format of the book, that's even better. That's what I do with people. But, speaking out, that's why originally, we were taking signature talks from high-end coaches and turning those into books because it was well polished. They were used to saying that and interacting with people. And that typically makes a really powerful book.
Wow. So, guys, just start, but also think, who is my avatar, right? My avatar changed a couple times. I'm like, wait, who's my avatar? Is it the mom? Is it? And technically, at the end of the day, it's still the mom, the parents, because we're the one who's putting pressure on our kids to the point where they want to kill themselves because of academics in Asian cultures. And I was just talking to somebody about that. Susanna and I were talking about that. Now, moving into influencer marketing, because I saw in your profile, can you explain the role of influencers in today's marketing landscape when it comes to specifically like book publishing?
So first of all, best-selling author is the number one influencer credential, bar none. My medical doctors, ones that have even been on TV, Dr. Dreon Birch has been on the TV show The Doctors and a whole bunch of other places. And he, among others, would be the first ones to tell you, I get more out of telling people I'm a best-selling author than I do having been a doctor in my field, even been featured on TV as a doctor. So that's number one. The role of the influencer really, and this is where I think a lot of people miss it, because you can, I heard Gary Vee actually say the other day, he's like, you could do a YouTube post and have it accidentally go viral without even knowing that, have that happen to you accidentally. And a lot of influencers get a lot of followers and they don't really know how they did it. The role of the influencer really should be to be driving something of value to some people. That's why, and we could even talk about celebrities. If you take, for example, let's just go back to Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie. I mean, we all remember them from their TV show and stuff. I saw an interview with Paris Hilton recently, I mean, within the last month or so, and it was amazing how much she's grown and matured and really stepped into the role of influencer that she has. And that's not saying that Nicole isn't doing anything, but I haven't seen anything from her in a while. And I think some of that was because it was more popular and trendy and really cool in the moment. But just like going back to the Twilight book I talked about, in 2007, that was all the rage and everybody wanted it. And, these days, normally when you bring it up, most people roll their eyes. Influence has to be about something bigger than just what's cool in the minute, or it will be like all of those other kind of things, and it will flash in the pan, be great, and then it'll really bomb out on you. And that's a really difficult way to try to run a business, being, peaked and then dropped, valleyed, and try to somehow figure out what's the next thing.
Make sure it's sustainable. Yeah. I'm going to segue on that, Twilight. First of all, I was crazy that when my husband went over there in that area, and I'm like, husband, I need you to go to this place where they have this store to specific. This man literally took half a day off from work that he was doing, traveling from Oregon or Seattle at that time, and drove his car to a barge for 2 hours to go to the lake where they have Edward and Jacob. Okay. Went through Indian reservation. Okay. To get to that place to buy me my things. And I'm like, thank you. And he's like, I could have died, And I'm like, thank you. And he still tell that story to all of his friends. Like, my wife's crazy. And they're like, no, you're crazy for agreeing to do it. And it's like, I would never come home and not stop asking about Twilight. That's how crazy I was with Twilight. Like, I have all the books in Twilight. I have all the movies. I have all the whatever. I have clothes from Twilight. And then you're like, are you Edward? And I'm like, or Jacob. I'm like, I don't know. I like both of them, but I do like to think about myself as a vampire because I get migraines in the sun. So if I go out, I get migraines. I'm like, definitely a vampire. Yep. And I'm like, wait, should I file my teeth to make I mean, that was how crazy. I was like, man, I'm too old for this. And my husband's like, you're never too old. You still play video games. I'm like, that's true. But you're right. It did kind of tapered down. Like, it was hot for a whole 2, 3, 5 years even, and then after that there was nothing else. So yeah. What are the key benefits of influencer marketing for business, and can you share some success stories or examples of that?
So one of the biggest key pieces of that, before I get into benefits, is your thing you're influencing has to be something that you're truly passionate about. It has to be the heart and soul and core of you. Like, you're talking about Twilight and how huge of a fan you were and still are. It's not something that was really exciting for you, and then like a lot of the tween girls, the next year was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you like that. So one of the key benefits for influencer marketing is your capability to really truly make a change in the world. I read a really cool statistic that talked about the fact that especially the younger generations, Gen Z and the millennials, tend to, now this is a generalization, but tend to care more about what the impact of the company they're working for is having than specifically even what the company does. And that's one of the biggest key benefits, if you will, for an influencer, is their capability to be able to bring a benefit to the world, to take the stage and then do something that makes the world, even in a small way, even in things that matter to you, a better place. I'll give you a perfect example of that. Dr. Allie, I love her. Dr. Alicia Griffith, her book is called Amazing Gift. I think she actually has a second one now, but the one we worked together on is called Amazing Gift. She's an audiologist. She's a medical doctor specializing in the ears, audiology. And after having done that for 10 years, her son was born. And most of what audiologists work with is autistic children. And her son was born and he's autistic. So then it was a flash forward another 10 years when we were writing her book. She had 20 years of experience in that field and 10 years of mom experience in that field, and was able to then really help share with the common person both that medical perspective, because she had that, but also that mom perspective, and help people really understand how amazing and incredible autistic children are. And it did all kinds of cool things for her. She was on Good Morning America and the Today Show and several other television shows as an expert coming in. And that's really where your book and the influence that comes from being a bestseller comes in, is it will propel you into the possibility of having. You have to use it. I mean, if you don't tell people, hey, I wrote the book on this thing, people aren't going to go digging into your bio and find out that you happen to have written a best-selling book. But if you if you introduce yourself as, hi, I'm Steve Kidd, the author of the 22 now #1 international best-selling books. I mean, that's like, oh, well, tell me a little bit more. How did you write 22 international bestsellers? It catches the people's attention so that then you have that attention to then make that difference. Does what I'm saying make sense?
Yeah, and I love that because I think that's where the disconnect, even including myself, okay? Like, okay, we have one international best-selling author book as an anthology, and people kind of discredit. That's another thing I wanted to tell you. They're like, they don't want to say it, but like the facial nonverbal communication. Oh wow, you wrote a book, and I'm like, yeah, with 29 other authors. Oh, you didn't write the book, like that feeling, and I'm like, wait, what do you mean, right? So that's what I wanted to also kind of address, like when you say that, but when you are not the sole writer of that book, how do you leverage best-selling author in an anthology to make money for you, or at least have the opportunity to make money for you, versus you doing a solo book project who became an international or a best-selling author?
So, first of all, the only one in the book, or there are thousands of people in the book, you are a best-selling author. Or if the book went international, you are an international best-selling author. I'll give you the perfect example. Have you ever heard of a story called Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Yep.
Okay, been reused in television shows, and there's probably 20 movies I can think of that are based basically off of that. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is a short story that was not allowed to be published in a book by itself because it's too small. It's only about 50 or so pages. It was an anthology. Now think about that when next time somebody rolls their eyes at your anthology and go, well, I'm in good company. I'm with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and other things like that. It's not about the exclusivity of, I wrote this whole book by myself. It's more about the exposure. It's kind of like when you graduate from medical school, you're not the only person who graduates that year from medical school. There's a whole bunch of people that walk across the stage. And yet we don't even go to the level with our doctor of asking him, hey, where did you go to school? And what did you graduate in your class? Were you #1 in your class? I mean, imagine if you only went to a doctor who was only the doctors who are #1 in their class. And some of the things we talked about with your book, I bet that if you went and talked to your parents or other people, that even they have never really asked their doctor how, what rank were you in your class when you graduated from college, let alone medical school. So, I mean, it's a real interesting dichotomy of the things that we poo-poo on others that we didn't do ourselves.
Yeah, and I feel flat, and I was like, Doctor. When I get those, I'm like, I'll show you. And I love it because my adversity and all those, I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong. But I'm thinking, wait, CJ, why are you doing it for them? You shouldn't doing it for them. You should do it for people that you can help. So I have to like stop myself. Okay, bro, we're going to have this sideline conversation, not Twilight. No, you are going down, Paul. You are going down. That's how bad. I can show you my closet of all my Twilight stickers and bags. I haven't grown up, okay? This almost 50-year-old has not grown up. I went to the point where I bought the best glitter that would stay on my arm. When I go out, I would glitter like Edward. I still have it, by the way. Thank you very much. And it was really expensive. My husband rolled his eyes and his wallet. But that's not the point, okay? Like, I was glittering and glistening. I haven't grown up. So you're going down, bro. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You went there today. Oh, no. What did Leslie said? She says, great question about anthology book. Great response about Jekyll and Hyde being an anthology. That is my learn something new every day for today. Leslie is actually a professor in New York University. And so I'm glad that you are here today. Now, my next question is this, okay? Because we have a lot of friends who are small business. How can small businesses or startup with limited budgets create effective marketing strategies that compete with larger, well-established brands leveraging their book as a bestseller?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's why I keep banging the drum of bestsellers. I mean, last year there was about 2 million books that were published. Of that, probably about 5% of those ever made it on the bestseller list. It's a significant thing. And the worst of it is, I mean, I have a radio show. I've had it for about 9 years. It's interesting to me how many people make their book a bestseller and then they don't do anything with it. It's like, why have a marketing campaign and then not use the marketing campaign? So, especially with your limited budget, you need to do the things that are going to maximize what you're going to do. And verbiage is always the number one piece of that. Whether we talk about getting your branding and your colors and your avatar and all those things right, even before that is you need the credentials from somebody outside of yourself. Going back to the doctor thing, if you are going to be a doctor, you have to graduate medical school. You may be a brilliantly and talented person. There's that TV show back in the 90s, The Pretender, where he just walked in and pretended to be a doctor. Well, the truth of the matter is that's illegal and you go to jail for that. I mean, it was cool in the movie, but, or in the TV show, but, there are certain things that we just have to have in order to immediately make us a person of value. And Amazon, where, let's just face it, that's basically where books are sold, having ranked you for a minute, for a day, a week, or if you're like Carl Michelle, for the last like ongoing 7.5 years now, with your book on the bestseller list, that's the number one, probably lowest cost of long-term effect, because that's going to last forever. You will always be a best-selling author. You will always be the author of the best-selling book. And you can maximize that in so many ways. Other ways to really effectively use that, though, then, is when you take the time to come up with that content, you have all of that content. And any of us, you were talking earlier in your intro stuff about YouTube and growing your YouTube audience and those kind of things. Most everyone at some point runs into what am I going to talk about this next time? What's my next piece of content? Well, you have a book that is full of content that you can make neat memes, you can make reels, you can make short form videos out of. I mean, a lot of times in your book, there's so much more behind the things you said. Like you said, we made you come down to 4,000 words. Think of all the other things you can then dive in and talk to about that. And all of it's based on this wonderfully cool platform of, oh yeah, that's stuff that came out of my best-selling book.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm missing too. Like, I know Nick has 2 best-selling already, but I don't think she's leveraging it to the maximum. I have 1 with her and Susanna Dawn. I think it's a matter of like, we don't know what we don't know and how to start leveraging that. And I think we also meet people like kind of downplays you and then you question yourself. You're like, oh yeah, it was just a part, like a chapter in an anthology. It's not a big deal. It's just international best-selling author, right? Yeah, it's just, that. And there's no possible way that could do. And then you hear people like, yeah, I'm at $300,000 now because of my book. And I'm like, okay, I'm missing something. Where do I put these pieces together to get that? And this is my next one is content marketing is a buzzword these days, right? Can you share some insights on how businesses can create compelling, valuable content? I think that you already talk about like creating a meme and creating a short story and things like that. What are some other things that in your experience, almost 40 years really on marketing, as a marketing strategist and influencer, what are some of the things that we could do today to keep that best-selling as a valuable content and valuable to create legacy for us?
Well, first of all, of course, you got to use it. If you don't say it, if it's not on your book, if it's not part of your bio, if it's not on your website, nobody knows. And if nobody knows, how can you do anything with it? I mean, so that's first of all is you got to begin to integrate that best-selling author into all the things so that when you go to ask somebody. I have a perfect example. A lady that was one of our authors had asked 9 times to be on a particular podcast and gotten turned down. And the 10th time, the only difference she made was now she had a best-selling book. She said, I want to come in and talk about my best-selling book. Guess what? They immediately said yes to her.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, just being able to tell, especially if you're talking about the more popular and more influential podcasts, you got to have something that makes you stand out above the crowd. Secondarily to that, when we talk specifically about content marketing, all of us try, myself included, that's why I said us, we try to continue to invent the wheel over and over again, other than just talking about how cool it is that the wheel's round and that it rolls and all the cool things that you can use with the wheel. What I mean by that is that sometimes the best thing you can do for content is to talk to people about that same thing that maybe you're even sick of never heard it. And so a lot of times your best place to find your best content is the things that you already have done. That's again where your book really plays into it, is because you took the time to write it out and to articulate that main one thing. And that kind of becomes, if you will, the starting point for every conversation you're going to have is, this is what I talked about in my book.
I'm getting ideas now. Watch out, Steve. I'm like, this is coming from Steve. This is what we're doing right now. And by the way, guys, before I forget, Steve is one of our global speakers. And I cannot believe how generous he is of giving you guys something for that summit. It's just amazing. Lastly, before we end, I can't believe we're ending already. I don't want to end it. I would just keep asking questions. But what are some emerging trends in the field of book writing, influencer marketing, and marketing strategy all in one that you believe will shape the future of the industry?
Oh, so many fun things. So eventually, I'll go to the end of the line first, okay? Eventually, books will be, they will be a different type of product than what we think about right now. Okay, so there's what's called an NFT. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Others of you are like, what's that? Okay, it's a non-frangible token. And what that means is that when then you make a book and it gets sold again, like at a garage sale or something like that, you would actually get paid on that book again. More importantly, and here's where it really comes in cool, very, very few people are actually content developers. There's a lot of people who are, like, say, for example, they're part of John Maxwell's organization and they've learned his style and they use his stuff and they repeat it, or they're in Amway or Toastmasters or any of those kind of organizations. And those are really great for the bulk of most people because they don't know how to start from ground zero. Some of you, though, you're the content people. You're the people who come up with these cool ideas at 2:00 in the morning, and you get up out of bed, annoy your spouse because you're on the computer at 2 in the morning, typing out this cool new epiphany that you just had that's going to change the whole world. And to allow the ability to then add with that your book and the ability to then really get to the place where we can empower people to take our course and use our course and sell our course, which is something right now we don't want to have people do because they steal our stuff and we don't make any money off of it. I know that never happens to anybody, but this is going to give us the ability to be able to empower them. Please do take my course. Please do sell my course. I get paid a little bit and you can go do all the work and I can just, sit here on the beach somewhere working on my tan while 1,000 of you go out and do that. So that's where we're going long term. I mean, I think short term, it's really more along the lines of we've began to understand that less is more. Amazon has found that if a book is 100 pages or less, that more than 60% of the people that get the book will read it and finish it. If it goes between 101 and 200 pages, that drops to around 20%. And if your book is over 200 pages long, it's less than 3% of people that ever finish it. Now, I know you come from academia, and it's just like horrible, aghast that anybody would never finish a book. But the truth of the matter is even think about the books that you've either gotten what you needed out of it and then you haven't finished it, or life happens. And I have one sitting over here in my drawer that I tease about, and I never finished this book. I think I'm going to intentionally not finish the book now because it always makes a good story. I was reading it when my mother-in-law was in chemo, and it was the book I would take with me. And I got about half of the way through the book before she passed. And it tucked away in the drawer, and it doesn't have anything to do with the emotional end of it. I just got busy, and it's just still sitting there in the drawer. And I saw it the other day, and I was like, I really got to finish that book sometime.
Yeah. I would finish Shakespeare's book before any other book. And my dad was like, why do you this is old English. How do you even understand? And I took him to Old Globe Theater in San Diego. The man snored. Okay. And I got so embarrassed. I was like, Dad, stop. And he's like, oh, thou art, what is this? I don't understand, because English is not his first language. I was like, next time I'm not taking you at all. And, English is my 7th language, but I love Shakespeare. And it's to the point where, junior year, I took Shakespeare courses. I love sonnet. I love poetry. I love those types of things because I feel like there's meaning behind the words and meaning behind the words' meaning. And you have to really dig deep, and it can be interpreted in so many ways, but yet the emotions that you get when you read the book and takes you somewhere else. Okay, never mind. I'm being a nerd right now, but I love books because it was the only way for me to get out of my 4 walls. That's what I was saying. When I couldn't go anywhere, especially during COVID, that helped me. Oh, I'm in Italy today. And they're like, you're traveling? There's a lot of people dying, CJ. I'm like, dude, I have COVID. I'm reading. I'm in Italy today. And that really is the one that resonates with me. So thank you so much for your time today. But before I let you go, I have one more question. If this is your last day today on this earth, what would be your parting message to your current and future families and even friends in terms of living life, legacy, and impact?
Well, it really boils down to, and I love the way you asked the question, actually, because today's the only day we've got. A good friend of mine, he used to always say, yesterday's a canceled check, tomorrow's a promissory note. Today is the only legal tender you can spend. The key for us all is to maximize the power of today. Do all that you can, be the best you that you can be while it's called today. Let tomorrow take care of itself. Ask forgiveness for anything from yesterday that you need to clear out of your own self, but then be the best you can be. Now, with that in mind, the best you can be may be laying in a bed, reading Shakespeare today, refreshing and feeding your soul. It's not to say that you have to be an A-type personality, and because you only have this 24 hours, you got to work all 24 of them. It's just simply about taking one thing for one person and making the difference. And I think between those two, when we maximize today and we focus on who is just one person that I could help today, I think that makes all the difference in our lives.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. I have a video now coming up. It's about finding your why. I'm going to post that today. I've been asked that so many times. How did you do this? And I'm shook when the people ask me. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about, because I'm not aware sometimes or self-aware what I'm impacting with my words. So now I'm like, ooh, someone's watching. I gotta be intentional with my words today so I don't hurt people's feelings. But it's hard to focus on something when it's not about you. You need to align yourself with you. And I love what you said about living today, because tomorrow's not promised. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll see you in a bit, okay?
Okay.
So guys, Steve is so amazing. I can't believe it. Let's see. I love that saying, Steve. I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's over the past few years, I've found the ways to positively cut the change from the past and live in the present. Yes, sister. I cannot wait to do that. Now, guys, if you want to, I almost said hooked up with Steve, but I'm saying ask Steve for help, okay? This is his LinkedIn, Steve Kidd, right? That's his LinkedIn. And also, you can DM me if you can't find him. He is an amazing person beyond the book writing, but he has so much knowledge and he comes from his heart. To really help people bring their story, not only just a bestseller, okay? Think about having your story leaving a legacy so that you can add value. He literally said your vulnerability and value. Those are the two things that you actually need to focus on. And I totally agree with that. And if you need just a little push, I'm sure Steve can spare 15 minutes with you to tell you what he thinks if you're thinking about writing a book. Don't think about it. Just take action. Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. And I will see you tomorrow for another live stream. Thanks for watching another episode of Level Up Academy today, brought to you by your none other host, Dr. Leland. Please do not forget to hit subscribe or push that notification bell so anything that we have an activity on at Level Up Academy, you will be the first one to know. If you would like to be a guest in our podcast, both on the MP3, audio only, and also here on live in our YouTube channel, please let me know. DM me. Let's connect. Have a fantabulous day. Bye, guys.